Hello, everybody. Welcome to the part 2 of reading the chapter 13 Consolidation of the Mughal Empire with me. So, let's get started. We have to start from this paragraph for relations with the Rajputs. Akbar's relations with the Rajputs have to be seen against the wider background of Mughal policy towards the powerful Rajas and Zamindars of the country. When Humayun came back to India, he embarked upon a deliberate policy of trying to win over these elements. Abul Fazl, Abul Fazl says that in order to soothe the minds of the zamindars, he entered into matrimonial relations with them. Thus, when Jamal Khan Mewati, who was one of the great zamindars of India, submitted to Humayun, he married one of his beautiful daughters himself and married the younger sister to Bairam Khan. In course of time, Akbar Akbar expanded and elaborated this policy. Bharamal, the ruler of Amber, had come to Akbar's court at Agra immediately after his accession. He made he had made a favorable impression on the young king, for when people were running helter-skelter from a maddened elephant, the Rajputs under Bharamal had stood firm. In 1562, when Akbar was going to Ajmer, he learned that Bharamal was being harassed by the local Mughal governor. Bharamal paid personal homage to Akbar and cemented the alliance by marrying his younger daughter Harka Bai to Akbar. Marriages between Muslim rulers and the daughters of Hindu potentates were not unusual. Many cases of such alliances in various parts of the country during the 14th and 15th century have been cited earlier. Maldev, the powerful ruler of Jodhpur, had married his daughter Bai Kanaka to Sultan Mahmud of Gujarat and another Lal Bai to Sur rulers, probably Islam Shah Sur. Most of these marriages had not led to the establishment of any stable personal relations between the concerned families. The girls were generally lost to their families and never came back after marriage. Such poor sight for the girls. Akbar followed a different policy. He gave complete religious freedom to his Hindu wives, as we have seen in the movie Jodha Akbar, and gave a honored place to their parents and relations in the nobility. Bharamal was made a high grandee. His son Bhagwan Das rose to the rank of 5,000 and his grandson Man Singh to the rank of 7,000. This rank was accorded by Akbar one to only one other noble, Aziz Khan Kuka, his foster brother. Akbar emphasized his special relationship with the Kachawa ruler in other ways as well. The infant Prince Danyal was sent to Amber to be brought up by Bharamal's wives. In 1572, when Akbar dashed to Gujarat, Bharamal was placed in charge of Agra, where all the royal ladies were residing, a signal honor given only to nobles who were either relations or close confidants of the emperor. But Akbar did not insist upon matrimonial relations as a precondition. Two matrimonial relations were entered into with the Hadas of Ranthambore, and yet they remained high in Akbar's favor. Rao Surjan Hada was placed in charge of Gadkatanga and rose to the rank of 2000. Similarly, no matrimonial relations were entered into with the rulers of Sirohi and Banswara who submitted to Akbar later on. Akbar's Rajput policy was combined with a policy of broad religious toleration. In 1564, he abolished the jizya, which was sometimes used by the ulama to humiliate non-Muslims. He had earlier abolished the pilgrim tax and the practice of forcible conversion of prisoners of war. Following the conquest of Chittor, most of the leading Rajput rulers had accepted Akbar's suzerainty and paid personal homage to him. The rulers of Jaisalmer and Bikaner had also entered into matrimonial relations with Akbar. The only state which had stubbornly refused to accept Mughal suzerainty was Mewar. Although Chittoor and the plain area around it had come under Mughal domination, Udaipur and the hilly area which formed the larger part of Mewar had remained under the control of the Rana. In 1572, Rana Pratap succeeded Rana Uday Singh to the Gaddi. A series of embassies were sent by Akbar to Rana Pratap to persuade him to accept Mughal suzerainty and to do personal homage. These embassies, including the one led by Man Singh, were courteously received by the Rana. The story that he insulted Man Singh is not a historical and is uncharacteristic of the Rana, who always behaved in a chivalrous and courteous manner even towards his opponents. Man Singh's embassy was followed by one under Bhagwan Das and another under Raja Todarmal. At one time, it seems that the Rana was prepared for a compromise. He put on the imperial robe sent by Akbar and sent his son Amar Singh to the court with Bhagwan Das to do homage to Akbar and accept his service. But no final agreement could be reached as the proud Rana was not prepared to accept Akbar's demand for tendering personal homage. Also, it seems that the Mughals wanted to keep hold of Chittor, which was not acceptable to the Rana. Early in 1576, Akbar moved to Ajmer and deputed Raja Man Singh with a force of 5,000 to lead a campaign against the Rana. In anticipation of this move, the Rana had devastated the entire territory up to Chittor so that the Mughal forces might get no food, no or fodder. Such a sacrifice. He had also fortified all the passes in the hills. A furious battle between the two sides was waged at Haldighati, a narrow defile leading to Kumbhalgarh, which was then the Rana's capital. Apart from selected Rajput forces, the Rana's van was led by Hakim Khan Sur with his Afghan contingent. Thus, the Battle of Haldighati was not a struggle between the Hindus and Muslims, but between Indians and foreigners. So we have to pay a great emphasis on this line. The Battle of Haldighati was not a struggle between the Hindus and the Muslims or between the Indians and the foreigners. A small force of the Bhils is a scheduled tribe right now, whom the Rana had befriended, was also present. The Rana's forces are put at 3,000. The onslaught by the Rajputs and the Afghans threw the Mughal force into disarray. But the rumors that Akbar had arrived in person rallied them. With fresh Mughal reinforcements, the tide of battle began to turn against the Rajputs. Seeing this, the Rana escaped. The Mughal forces were too tired to pursue him, but after some time they advanced through the pass and occupied Gogunda, a strong point which had been evacuated by the Rana earlier. This was the last time the Rana engaged in a pitched battle with the Mughals. Henceforth, he resorted to methods of guerrilla warfare. The Rana was unstoppable. The defeat at Haldighati did not weaken Rana Pratap's resolve to fight on for independence. However, the cause for which he stood had already been lost. Most of the Rajput states had accepted Mughal suzerainty. By his policy of inducing the Rajput Rajas to into Mughal service and treating them on a par with the Mughal grandees, according broad religious toleration to his subjects and his courteous behavior to his former opponents, Akbar succeeded in cementing his alliance with the Rajput rulers. Almost all the Rajput Rajas have already accepted Akbar's sovereignty and has paid homage to him like he wanted to in person, but Rana Pratap was adamant in his decision for independence, and unlike most of the Rajput rulers, he was not willing to pay any homage in person, although he sent his son to Akbar's court, which is claimed by most of the historians, but he himself did not want to uh, actually surrender to Mughal Empire. And as we have seen that Mughal Empire clearly wanted to have a greater control over Chittor, which was a very beneficial area, but Maharana Pratap was clearly against that idea. And then was fought the Battle of Haldi Ghati, in which there was a defeat faced by the Maharana Pratap, after which he resorted to guerrilla warfare. But you can see from his valor and courage that he didn't just give in, and he tried to reunite the forces in some way or the other in order to claim his independence. But Akbar's policy was more of a very accommodating one, and he was the one able to win the support of the Rajput rulers by following various tactics, and also by being religiously tolerant and displaying courteous behavior towards his opponents as well. So, moving on. Therefore, Rana Pratap's refusal to bow before the Mughals had little effect on most of the other Rajput states, which realized that in the existing situation it was impossible for small states to stand out for long in favor of complete independence. Moreover, by allowing a large measure of autonomy to the Rajput Rajas, Akbar established an empire which in which those Rajput Rajas did not consider harmful to their best interest. They were actually seeing the picture in a shorter term. That was a very myopic sight for the Rajput Rajas, I could say. But Akbar did a very uh, much Akbar did had a very much planned and strategic approach in order to consolidate his empire and expand it. Rana Pratap's defiance of the mighty Mughal Empire, almost alone and unaided by the other Rajput states, alone and unaided by the other Rajput states, constitutes a glorious saga of Rajput valor and the spirit of sacrifice for cherished principles. Rana Pratap also experimented successfully with the methods of guerrilla warfare, which were later to be elaborated further by Malik Ambar, the Deccani general, and by Shivaji. It is not necessary to discuss in detail the struggle between Akbar and Rana Pratap. For some time, Akbar exerted relentless pressure on Rana. The Mughals overran the states of Dungarpur, Banswara, Sirohi, etc., which were dependent allies of Mewar and had supported Rana Pratap. Akbar concluded separate treaties with these states, thus further isolating Mewar. The Rana was hunted from forest to forest and from valley to valley. Both Kumbhalgarh and Udaipur were occupied by the Mughals. The Rana went underwent great hardships, but thanks to the support of the Bhil chiefs, he could continue his defiance. The Mughal pressure relaxed after 1579 due to a serious revolt in Bihar and Bengal in protest against some reforms effected by Akbar. Akbar's half-brother Mirza Hakim made an incursion into Punjab in order to fish in troubled waters. Thus Akbar had to face a more serious internal crisis. In 1585, Akbar moved to Lahore to watch the situation in the northwest, which had become dangerous. He remained there for the next 12 years. No Mughal expedition was sent against Rana Pratap after 1585. Taking advantage of the situation, Rana Pratap recovered many of his territories, including Kumbhalgarh and the areas near Chittor, but he could not recover Chittor itself. During this period, he built a new capital, Chawand, near modern Dungarpur. He died in 1597 at the young age of 51 due to an internal injury incurred by him while trying to draw a stiff bow. Apart from Mewar, Akbar had to face opposition in Marwar as well. Following the death of Maldev, there was a dispute of succession between his sons. The younger son of Maldev, Chandra, who was the son of the favorite queen of Maldev, succeeded to the Gaddi. Due to the pressure of the Mughals, he had to give parts of his country in Jagir to his elder brothers. But Chandra did not like this arrangement and after some time rose in rebellion. Akbar now took Marwar under direct Mughal administration, one reason being his desire to safeguard the Mughal supply route to Gujarat, which passed through Jodhpur. After its conquest, Akbar appointed Rai Singh Bikaneri to look after Jodhpur. Chandra resisted valiantly and waged a guerrilla warfare, but after some time he had to seek refuge in Mewar. Even there, he was hunted from place to place by the Mughals. He died in 1581. A couple of years later, Akbar conferred Jodhpur upon Uday Singh, the elder brother of Chandra Sen. To strengthen his position, Uday Singh married his daughter. To strengthen his position, Uday Singh married his daughter Jagat Gosain or Jodhabai, as she came to be called, to Akbar's eldest son Salim. Unlike the Dola, unlike the Dola form of earlier marriages, the bridegroom's party went to the Raja's house and a number of Hindu practices were performed. This happened when Akbar was residing at Lahore. It's kind of confusing because uh, Jodhabai, as here it is written, is Jagat Gosain. She was said to be from the kingdom of Marwad and the sister of Uday Singh, who is also the elder brother of Chandra Sen, or you may say the foster elder brother, not very specifically clear in this paragraph. So I would like to read it again. Akbar conferred Jodhpur upon Uday Singh, the elder brother of Chandra Sen, to strengthen his position. Uday Singh married his daughter Jagat Gosain or Jodhabai, as she came to be called, to Akbar's eldest son Salim. Under the Dola form of earlier marriages, the bridegroom's party went to the Raja's house and a number of Hindu practices were performed. This happened when Akbar was residing at Lahore. Okay. Akbar also had close personal relations with the rulers of Bikaner and Bundi, who served in various campaigns with distinction. In 1593, when the son-in-law of Rai Singh of Bikaner died due to fall from his palki, Akbar went personally to the Raja's house to console him and dissuaded his daughter from performing sati and her children were young. As her children were young. The Rajput policy of Akbar proved beneficial to the Mughal state as well as to the Rajputs. The alliance secured to the Mughal Empire the services the alliance secured to the Mughal Empire the services of the bravest warriors in India. The steadfast loyalty of the Rajputs became an important factor in the consolidation and expansion of the empire. The alliance ensured peace in Rajasthan and enabled the Rajputs to serve in far-flung parts of the empire without worrying about the safety of their homelands. By being enrolled into the imperial service, important positions in the empire were open to the Rajput Rajas. Thus, Bhawan Das of Amber was appointed joint governor of Lahore, while his son Man Singh was placed in charge of Kabul. Later, Man Singh was appointed the governor of Bihar and Bengal. The Rajput rulers were placed in charge of strategic provinces such as Agra, Ajmer, and Gujarat at various times. As high grandees of the empire, they were granted jagirs to their hereditary, in addition to their hereditary kingdoms, thus augmenting their resources. So just they already had that hereditary kingdoms, but it was not in their direct control. They were administrating him. They were administering him in the name of the Mughal ruler Akbar. Also, they had an added advantage of getting the additional jagirs which were granted to him by the emperor. Akbar's Rajput policy was continued by his successors Jahangir and Shah Jahan. Jahangir, whose mother was a Rajput princess, had himself married a Kachhava princess as well as a Jodhpur princess. Princes of the houses of Jaisalmer and Bikaner were also married to him. Jahangir gave the highest honor to the rulers of these houses. The main achievement of Jahangir, however, was the settlement of the outstanding dispute with Mewar. Rana Pratap had been succeeded by his son Amar Singh. Akbar had sent a series of expeditions against Amar Singh in order to force him to accept his conditions. Jahangir himself was sent against him twice but could achieve little. After his accession in 1605, Jahangir took up the matter energetically. Three successive campaigns were launched, but they could not break the Rana's will. In 1613, Jahangir himself reached Ajmer to direct the campaign. Prince Khurram, later Shah Jahan, was deputed with a large army to invade the mountainous parts of Mewar. The heavy pressure of Mughal army, the depopulation of the country, and the ruination of agriculture at last reduced their effects. Many Sardars defected to the Mughals, the others pressed the Rana for peace. The Rana's son, Karan Singh, who was deputed to proceed to Jahangir's court, was graciously received. Jahangir got up from the throne, embraced him in Darbar, and loaded him with gifts. To save the Rana's prestige, Jahangir did not insist upon the Rana's paying personal homage to him and entering the royal service. Prince Karan was accorded the rank of 5,000, which had been earlier accorded to the rulers of Jodhpur, Bikaner, and Amber. He was to serve the Mughal emperor with a contingent of 1,500 sawars. All the territories of Mewar, including Chittor, were restored, but in view of the strategic importance of Chittor, it was stipulated that its fortification would not be repaired. Thus, Jahangir completed the task begun by Akbar and further strengthened the alliance with the Rajputs. Okay, rebellions and further expansion of the Mughal Empire. The new system of administration introduced by Akbar, as described above, implied tightening of the administrative machinery, greater control over the nobles, and more regards to the interest of common people. It was therefore not to the liking of many nobles. Sentiments of regional independence were still strong, particularly in the areas such as Gujarat, Bengal, and Bihar, all of which had a long tradition of forming separate kingdoms. In Rajasthan, Rana Pratap's struggle for freedom was continuing apace. In this situation, Akbar had to deal with a series of rebellions. Gujarat remained in a state of unrest for 2 years due to a bid for freedom by a representative of the old ruling dynasty. The most serious rebellion during the period was in Bihar and Bengal, which extended to Jaunpur. The main cause of the rebellion was the strict enforcement of the Dag system, or the branding of the horses of Jagirdars, and strict accounting of their income. The discontent was fanned by some religious divines who were unhappy at Akbar's liberal views and at his policy of resuming the large revenue free grants of land which had been obtained by them, sometimes illegally. Akbar's half brother Mirza Hakim, the ruler of Kabul, also abetted the rebellion and held out the hope of invading Punjab at the suitable time in order to help. A large number of Afghans in the eastern part were saddened at the loss of the Afghan power and were even ready to join the rebellion. The rebellion kept the empire distracted for almost 2 years, and Akbar was faced with a very difficult and delicate situation. Due to the mishandling of the situation by the local officials, Bengal and almost the whole of Bihar passed into the hands of the rebels who proclaimed Mirza Hakim as their ruler. They even got a religious divine to issue a fatwa calling on the faithful to take the field against Akbar. Akbar did not lose his nerve. He dispatched a force under Tolomar against Bihar and Meghal and another under Raja Man Singh to check the expected attack by Mirza Hakim. Tolomar proceeded with great vigor and tact and brought the situation in the east under control before Mirza Hakim's invasion took place. Mirza Hakim advanced in Lahore with 15,000 horses but could not take the city due to the stout defense by Raja Man Singh and Bhagwan Das. His hopes that large numbers of nobles in the Punjab would rebel and join him were also belied. Meanwhile, Akbar marched on Lahore with a well-disciplined force of 50,000 horses. Mirza Hakim had no option but to beat a hasty retreat. Akbar crowned his success by marching to Kabul, the first time an Indian ruler had entered this historic town. Since Mirza Hakim refused to accept Akbar's suzerainty or to come to pay personal allegiance to him, and the Indian nobles and soldiers were becoming restive, Akbar handed over Kabul to his sister before returning to India. The handing over of the kingdom to a woman was symbolic of Akbar's broad-mindedness and liberalism. Akbar's triumph over his opponents was not only a personal success but also showed that the new system was beginning to strike roots. Akbar was now free to think of the further expansion of his empire. He was drawn to the Deccan, in which he had long been interested. But before he could do anything, the situation in the northwest claimed his attention again. Abdullah Khan Uzbek, the hereditary enemy of the Mughals, had been gradually gathering strength in the Central Asia. In 1584, he overran Badakhsh Khan, which had been ruled by the Timurids. Kabul appeared to be next on his list. Both Mirza Hakim and the Timurid princes ousted from Badakhshan now appealed to Akbar for help, but before he could do anything, Mirza Hakim died due to excessive drinking, leaving Kabul in a state of disturbance. Leaderless, Akbar now ordered Man Singh to march to Kabul and himself moved to attack on the river Indus. In order to block all roads to Uzbeks, he sent expeditions against Kashmir and against Baluchistan. The whole of Kashmir, including Ladakh and Baltistan, called Tibet Khurd and Tibet Buzurg, came under Mughal domination, a daughter of the chief of Baltistan being married to the young Salim. Expeditions were also sent to clear the Khyber Pass, which had been blocked by religious tribesmen. In an expedition against them, Raja Birbal, the favorite of Akbar, lost his life. Akbar and Birbal, the stories and the tales have been very prominent in my recent memories. But the Afghan tribesmen were gradually forced to submit. The consolidation of the Northwest and fixing a scientific frontier of the empire were two of the major contributions of Akbar. Consolidation of Northwest, fixing a scientific frontier of the empire were two of the major contributions of Akbar. His conquest of Sindh also opened the Punjab for trade down the river Indus. Akbar stayed at Lahore till 1598 when the death of Abdullah Uzbek finally removed the threat from the side of the Uzbeks. After settling the affairs of the northwest, Akbar turned his attention towards the affairs of the eastern and western India and the Deccan. Orissa, which was at that time under the domination of Afghan chiefs, was conquered by Raja Man Singh, who was the Mughal governor of Bengal. Man Singh also conquered Cooch Behar and parts of East Bengal, including Dhaka. Mirza Aziz Koka, the foster brother of Akbar, conquered Kathiawar in the west. Khan Munim Khan was deputed to the Deccan along with the Prince Murad. The developments in the Deccan would be dealt with in a separate chapter. Suffice it to say here that by the turn of the century, Mughal control had been extended up to Ahmednagar, bringing the Mughals into direct contact with the Marathas for the first time. So, Marathas have come. Thus, the political integration of the North India had been achieved by the turn of the century, and the Mughals had started the penetration of Deccan. But what was even more important, the cultural and emotional integration of people within this vast empire had developed apace. Towards integration, we have seen how during the 15th century, a number of rulers in different parts of the country had tried to promote greater understanding between Hindus and the Muslims by having secular and religious literature in Sanskrit translated into Persian, by giving patronage to local languages and literature, by adopting a more liberal policy of religious toleration, and in some cases by giving important jobs, including service at court and in army, to the Hindus. So we can say that in short, they're trying to pacify the Hindus and trying to bridge the gap between the Hindu and the Muslim community in order to consolidate their empire, as well as to bridge the different social gaps which they had. Okay, we have also seen how a remarkable series of popular saints such as Chaitanya, Kabir, Nanak in different parts of the country emphasize the essential unity of Islam and Hinduism and laid stress on religion based on love and devotion rather than the one based on works or a literal interpretation of revealed books. They thus created the atmosphere in which liberal sentiments and views could grow and religious narrowness was looked down upon. This was the atmosphere in which Akbar was born and reared. One of the first actions that Akbar took after he had taken power in his own hands was to abolish the poll tax or jizya, which the non-Muslims were required to pay in a Muslim state. Although it was not a heavy tax, it was disliked because it made a distinction between subject and subject. At the same time, Akbar abolished the pilgrim tax on bathing at holy places such as Prayag, Banaras, etc. He also abolished the practice of forcibly converting prisoners of war to Islam. This laid the essential foundations of an empire based on equal rights to all citizens, irrespective of their religious beliefs. This can be this is said to be incorporated in our constitution as well in the chapter of fundamental rights, the right to religious beliefs, right to religion. It's from Article 25 till 28. Yes. The liberal principles of the empire were strengthened by bringing able Hindus into the nobility. While most of these were Rajput Rajas, many of whom entered into matrimonial relations with Akbar and with whom he had established a personal relationship, mansabs were given to others also on the basis of their competence. Among the latter, the ablest and the most well known were Todalmal, an expert in revenue affairs who rose to the post of Diwar, and Birbal, who was a favorite of the emperor. Akbar's attitude towards his Hindu subjects is closely linked with his views of how a sovereign would behave towards his subjects. These views, which have been carefully explained by Akbar's biographer Abu Fazl, were an amalgamation of Timurid, Persian, and Indian ideas of sovereignty. According to Abu Fazl, the officer of a true ruler was a very responsible one, for which dependent on divine illumination. Farizadi. Okay, according to Abu Fazl, the office of a true ruler was a very responsible one, which depended on divine illumination. Hence, no one could stand between God and a true ruler. They were at par with each other. A true ruler was distinguished by a paternal love towards his subjects without distinction of sect or creed, a large heart so that the wishes of great and small are attended to, prayer and devotion, and a great and a daily increasing trust in God, who is considered as the real ruler. It was also the duty of the ruler to maintain equilibrium in the society by not allowing people of one rank or profession to interfere in the duties and obligations of another. All these together constituted what has been called the policy of Sulh Kul or peace to all. From the beginning, Akbar was deeply interested in religion and philosophy. At the outset, Akbar was an orthodox Muslim. He paid great deference to the leading Qazi of the state, Abdul Nabi Khan, who held the post of Sadr ur Sadur and on one occasion even carried his slippers for him. But by the time Akbar reached adulthood, mysticism, which was being preached in length and breadth of the country, began to influence him. We are told that he spent whole nights in thoughts of God, continuously pronounced his name, and continually pronounced his name, and for a feeling of thankfulness for his success, he would sit many a morning alone in prayer and contemplation on a large flat stone of an old building near his palace in Agra. Gradually, he turned away from the path of narrow orthodoxy. He had already abolished the jizya and the pilgrim tax, as we have seen. He gathered at the liber- at a court. He gathered at the court a band of talented people with liberal ideas. The most noted among these were Abu Fazl and his brother Faizi, who, along with the father, who was a noted scholar, had been persecuted by the mullahs for having sympathy with Madhavi ideas. Another was a Brahmin, Mahesh Das, who was given the title of Raja Birbal and was a constant companion of Akbar. So Birbal's name was Mahesh Das. Fascinating. In 1575, Akbar built a hall called Ibadat Khana, or the Hall of Prayers, at his new capital Fatehpur Sikri. To this he called selected theologians, mystics, and those of his courtiers and nobles who were known for their scholarship and intellectual attainments. Akbar discussed religion and spiritual topics with them. He frequently said, "My sole object, O wise mullahs, is to ascertain truth, to find out and disclose the principles of genuine religion." The proceedings at first were confined to the Muslims. They were hardly orderly. The mullahs wrangled, shouted, and abused each other even in the presence of the emperor. The behavior of the mullahs, their pride, and the conceit in their learning disgusted Akbar and further alienated him from the mullahs. At this stage, Akbar opened the Ibadat Khana to the people of all religions: Christians, Zoroastrians, Hindus, Jains, and even atheists. This broadened the discussions and even issues on which all Muslims were agreed, such as whether the Quran was the last revealed book and Muhammad its prophet. Resurrection, nature of God began to be debated. This horrified the theologians, and all kinds of rumors began to circulate about Akbar's desire to forsake Islam. As a modern writer says, the patience and open mindedness of Akbar was construed in a variety of ways by people of different faiths. Instead of bringing credit, the Ibadat Khana brought down discredit. So it was like a dent to Akbar's identity as a religious person or as a follower of Islam, because people uh, kind of believed that he was going to forsake his religion, and it was misunderstood because of his patience and open mindedness and his ways of approaching the truths of this world. At this time, an inquiry was conducted into the affairs of Chief Sadr Abdul Nabi, who was found to be extremely corrupt and tyrannical in his dealings in the distribution of charitable lands, Mother Demash. He had amassed wealth in other corrupt and mean ways as well. He was a bigot and had inflicted the punishment of death on Shias and on Brahman of Mathura for their beliefs. At first, Abdul Nabi was sheared of his power, and Sadrs were appointed in every province for distributing charitable lands. Soon he was dismissed in order to proceed to Mecca for Hajj. At the same time, in 1579 to 80, a rebellion broke out in the east. A number of fatwas were given by the Qazis declaring Akbar to be a heretic. Akbar suppressed the rebellion and gave drastic punishment to the Qazis. To further strengthen his position in dealing with the mullahs, Akbar also issued a declaration or mazhar which asserted that if there were conflicting views among those muftahids who were considered fit to interpret the Quran, Akbar, by virtue of being a most just and wise king and his rank being higher in the eyes of God than that of the mujahids, was entitled to choose any one of the interpretations which would be of benefit to the nation and in the interest of the good order. So Akbar was kind of the view. Akbar was of the view that if there is any contention in any part of the Quran, so he would be the one who will decide as to what part is the correct one, because in the eyes of God he is of the higher rank than that of the mujahids. So he'll take the decision for the benefit of the nation and the interest of good order. The declaration, which was signed by the leading ulamas, has been wrongly called a decree of infallibility. So I just forgot to read one line. Further, if Akbar issued a new order in conformity with the Quran and calculated to benefit the nation, all should be bound to it. So Akbar can proclaim new orders. The declaration, which was signed by the leading ulamas, had been wrongly called a declaration of infallibility. Akbar claimed that the right to choose only when there was a difference of opinion among those qualified to interpret the Quran. So it is not a general law that he could choose, but it was like he could only choose when there is a topic of contention, or there is a topic which had different views from those who were capable of interpreting the Quran. At a time when there were bloody conflicts between the Shias and the Sunnis and the Mahadavis in different parts of the country, Akbar wanted the widest religious toleration. There is a little doubt about the Mazhar had a salutary effect in establishing the religious situation in the empire. But Akbar was less successful in his effort to find a meeting place between the votaries of different religions in the country. The debates in the Ibadat Khana had not led to a better understanding between different religions, but to a greater bitterness as the representative of each religion denounced the other and tried to prove that their religion was superior than others. Hence, in 1582, Akbar discontinued the debates of Ibadat Khana, but he did not give up his quest for truth. Even his bitter critic Badayuni says, night and day people did nothing but inquire and investigate. Akbar invited Purushottam and Devi to expound the doctrines of Hinduism and Maharji Rana to explain the doctrines of Zoroastrianism. He met some Portuguese Swedes, and in order to understand the Christian doctrines better, he sent an embassy to Goa requesting them to send two learned missionaries to his court. The Portuguese sent Aquaviva and Montserrat, who remained at Akbar's court for almost 3 years and have left a valuable account of it. But their hope of converting Akbar to Christianity never had any basis. Akbar came into touch with the Jains also, and at his instance, the leading Jain saint of Kathiawar, Hira Vijaya Suri, spent a couple of years at the Akbar's court. So Akbar was basically inviting people of different beliefs and religions to his court in order to learn about their religion and their philosophies so that he could form his own thoughts, and he was not just confined to his religion, or he was not confined to the religion which he was born in. He also wanted to inquire about the other things, or to get to know what the reality, or what the metaphysical truth was. Contacts with leaders of various religions, reading of their learned works, meetings with the Sufi saints and yogis gradually convinced Akbar that while there was a difference of sect and creed, all religions had a number of good points which were obscured in the heat of controversy. He felt that if the good points of the various religions were emphasized, an atmosphere of harmony and amity would prevail, which would be good for the country. Further, he felt that behind all the multiplicity of names and forms, there was one God. So it could be said that Akbar was a monotheist, as Badayuni observed. As a result of all the influences which were brought to bear on His Majesty, there grew gradually, as the outline of a stone, the conviction in his art that there were some sensible men in all religions. If some true knowledge was thus everywhere to be found, why should truth be confined to only one religion? But the Uni asserts that as a result of this, Akbar gradually turned away from Islam and set up a new religion which was compounded of many existing religions: Hinduism, Christianity, Zoroastrianism, etc. So, Badayuni says that Akbar gradually deflected from his original religion, or the religion which he was born in, that is Islam, and tried to form a new religion which was an amalgamation of Hinduism, Christianity, Zoroastrianism, and all the other which he got accustomed to. However, modern historians are not inclined to accept this view and think that Badayuni has exaggerated. There is little evidence there is little evidence to prove that Akbar intended or actually promulgated a new religion. The words used by Abu Fazl and Badayuni for the so-called new path was Tawhid-e-Ilahi, which literally means divine monotheism. The word deen or faith was not applied to it till 80 years later. The Tawheed-e-Ilahi was really an order of the sophistic type. So we could infer that he established, or he was kind of into the ways of establishing monotheism, and this Sufi ideas or ways, because the Tawhid-e-Ilahi was really an order of the sophistic type. Those who were willing to join and those whom the emperor approved were allowed to become members. Sunday was fixed as a day for initiation. The novice placed his head at the feet of the emperor, who raised him up and gave him the formula called Shastra and the Sufi language, which he was to repeat and concentrate upon. So, like the mantra or the guru mantra specifically, which your guru gives to you, and you have to recite it on a daily basis multiple times. This contained Akbar's favorite motto, Allahu Akbar, or God is great. The initiates were to abstain from meat as far as possible, at least in the month of their birth. So, birthday months, don't eat meat. Gave a sumptuous feast and gave, I don't know, hymns on their birthday. So, for those who are listening to it and have come so far, if it's your birthday month, you need to abstain from meat for as much far as possible, and at least for this month, give a sumptuous feast and give gifts on your birthdays to others. There were no sacred books or scriptures, no priestly class, no place of worship or rituals and ceremonies except the initiation. So it was like baptism. Like in baptism, they try to initiate you into the deeper levels of Christianity. They try to initiate you more closer to God. Like they have such beliefs. So this initiation could be kind of compared with the start of your spiritual journey to that path. Badayuni says that the members had four grades of devotion, which are sacrifice of property, life, honor, and religion. So the sacrifice of property can be done. Life, it's different. Honor, more different, and religion, current times is the most difficult of them all, I guess. These again were like the greats of Sufi past. Giving up religion apparently meant giving up attachment to the narrow concepts and observances, which again was in keeping with Sufi ideas. Akbar did not use force nor was money used for making disciples. In fact, many leading nobles, including all the great Hindu nobles except Birbal, declined to join. So Birbal was his favorite. Obviously, he joined, and it was not just because of the favoritism thing, but Birbal was also a very learned man, and he would have definitely seen something in it and joined. So we don't know. We're just reading from the historical accounts. Let's see. So the number of persons who actually joined the order was small, many of them consisting of personal favorites of Akbar. Thus, the order was not expected to play an important political role. In any case, by the time the order was instituted, Akbar had consolidated his internal position, and such an artificial prop was hardly necessary. What then were Akbar's motives? Historians have different views on the matter, but the Uni ascribed it to Akbar's head being turned by many unworthy flatterers and panegyrists who suggested to him that he was the insan-e-kamil or the perfect man of the age. It was at this stage that Akbar initiated the ceremony of pabos or kissing the floor before the sovereign, a ceremony which was previously reserved for the gods. Okay. There were many precedents of rulers combining temporal and spiritual powers in their person. There were many precedents of rulers combining temporal and spiritual powers in their person, and Abu Fazl says that it was natural for people to turn to their rulers for spiritual guidance, and that Akbar was well qualified to lead the people to spiritual bliss and to establish harmony among the warring creeds. Whatever may have been Akbar's motives, the Tawheed-e-Ilahi virtually died with him. Tawheed-e-Ilahi were the Sufi ways he propagated. The practice of giving a shast or the mantra, in other words, to the initiates was continued for some time by Jahangir also, but soon it was discontinued. However, the habit of looking upon the king as someone having miraculous power so that the people could be cured by King's touch or by his breathing upon a pot of water, continued, and even a strict ruler such as Aurangzeb could not shake off this belief. Akbar tried to emphasize the concept of sul-ukul or peace and harmony among religions in other ways as well. He set up a big translation department for translating works in Sanskrit, Arabic, Greek, etc. into Persian. Thus, the Singhan Battisi, the Atharvaved, and Bible were taken up first for the translation. These were followed by Mahabharata, Gita, and Ramayana. Many other, including the Panchatantra and works of geography, were also translated. The Quran was also translated, perhaps for the first time. So, Quran translated for the first time in Akbar's rule. Akbar also introduced a number of social and educational reforms. He stopped sati, the burning of a widow. We've also read earlier that he stopped a Rajput Raja from, like a Raja's widow daughter, from performing sati because her children were so young. He stopped sati, the burning of a widow, unless she herself, of her own free will. Okay, there was free will persistently desired it. Widows of tender age who had not shared the bed with their husbands were not to be burned at all. Widows' remarriage was also legalized. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar continued it later in a very greater stage, at a very mass stage and mass level. Akbar was against anyone having more than one wife. Oh, monogamy. Unless the first wife was barren. Uh, The age of marriage was raised to 14 for girls and 16 for boys. The sale of wines and spirits was restricted. Not all these steps were, however, successful. Steps were, however, successful. As we know, the success of social legislation depends largely on the willing and cooperation of the people. So this has to be kept in mind. Successful of social legislation depends largely on the willing cooperation of the people. Akbar was living in an age of superstition, and it seems that his social reforms had only limited success. Akbar also revived the educational syllabus, laying more emphasis on moral education and mathematics, and on secular subjects such as agriculture, geometry, astronomy, rules of government, logic, history, etc. He also gave patronage to artists, poets, painters, and musicians. One of them is the greatest Tansen, who was sent from the court of the Raja of Bandhavgarh, Riva. He was okay, painters, musicians, so much so that his court became famous for the galaxy of the famous people there for all the Navratnas, nine gems. Thus, under Akbar, the state became essentially secular, liberal, and enlightened in social matters and a promoter of cultural integration. With that, we've come to an end of this chapter. I hope you could complete it with me. There's just exercises left and we'll be done with it. So, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.